Righto, we're jumping into the second question. Now, with the second question, it's all about career and support that you sort of have in your career in the future ones or even in the present ones, right? So, with this question here, when you are asked these sort of questions, you don't really have to describe about your future trajectory right away. So, if, for example, if you're already in a established job, for example, if you're government servant, in certain cases you may not be able to work somewhere else, right? And so the approach that I go with this formula is to focus on the things that you're planning to do at work or planning to pursue in case you don't have a work already, right? I want you to think with really great clarity or just imagine, right, on how is the program that you're going to apply for is going to strengthen your particular sets of knowledge, right? This, you can find it directly on the university website. In this case, I'm going to take my master study as my example. So, University of Adelaide, right? If you go straight into the websites, generally they will show you something that is to do with the key features, right? So key features is generally something that's quite unique to the program. It's generally something that they dare to vouch, right? So if they claim to have this thing, basically these things are the things that they are trying to enunciate, I suppose, right? Okay, so in this case, building practical skills, right, and participate in supervised counseling sessions. So you can implement these sort of key features or key points that the university is offering to you directly into your personal statement, right? So the research progress, most of them are already done on the first questions, but some of them still do translate into the next and the next. Okay, so when you visualize this, think about, if you gain a particular knowledge from this particular degree, what sort of things are you able to do then that you perhaps wouldn't be able to do before? And then, when appropriate, connect how the course in a way can support your career plan. Now, career plan isn't never just about changing jobs or getting into a higher position. Sometimes it could mean that you're moving to different departments because you have pursued a specialty into something. Sometimes it's also something to do with how your career excels in terms of KPI, right? So it could mean so many different things for different people, and the meanings are going to be transient. So, just be mindful of those things. It doesn't have to be, going above and beyond. It could be something that's quite realistic. It could also be something that's quite feasible to do, right? So, in cases where you're already within a good career, think about how the course can offer you some sort of novel insights. So, novel insights just means a unique, particular sets of ability, knowledge on your current role, right? And how will this novel insight solve and mediate the current contextual gaps? So, for example, if you have a problem to do with psychological things in a particular village, right? You have tried to use a lot of modalities that you have learned previously from your previous degree. It doesn't work. You try to innovate. It doesn't work. Think about when you go into this course, think about what sort of knowledge that can add value to that. So, to make something that didn't work really well, or to completely change something in a cases that is quite feasible, right? Okay, here's my sample, right? Psychology doctorate. PsyD programs offer a pathway to psychotherapeutic specialization embedded within applied community. This is just me setting the context, right? Maintaining clinical research rigor and stuff like that. This is just a jargon that I put in. Um, apologize. The structure directly supports my career trajectory. See how direct I am with my answer. I am not telling you like a grandiose story or something that's awe-inspiring right away. I'm just answering the question because you will have your moment to tell about that inspirational story later. Okay, this structure directly supports my career trajectory as evidence-based trauma, especially in community recovery, right? So basically, I'm telling about the program, and I'm also telling how this can help me um, achieve the knowledge that I perhaps don't have previously, right? And so it also enables psychotherapeutic inquiry within community setting. See, directly, I am stating what sort of things the institutions or the program can offer to me directly. Again, this provides comparative lens for developing culturally responsive interventions within culturally and linguistically diverse population. Now, this is my justification, right? Like, why do I want to learn again, right? Because it offers me with a comparative lens. It just means that I can compare what I've learned in Indonesian community, but I can also compare it with what I've learned later on when I'm working with Aboriginal community in Australia and see how certain things fit in within different contexts, right? So it's to contextualize the psychotherapeutic method. So if you're not a psychologist, then you can think about how, for example, construction in Australia and construction in Indonesia, what things they could learn from each other. Economics in Australia and economics in Indonesia, how can they sort of fit things into each other, right? So this is all about collaboration process. And this is my interest, once in a while, it's all right for you to talk about your interest. Career isn't always about money. Sometimes it's about passion. Sometimes it's about hobby. Sometimes it's about how you can build the country through your own passion. In this case, my interest is cultural symbolism. So I study anthropology as well, beyond psychology, which I found to be quite helpful in helping clients, especially those who are coming from a particular closed tribe, right? So I'm also introducing just a tiny gap, which is application of foundational psychology theories remains underexplored. The problem in Indonesia most of the time is the psychologists are using Western modalities. They're using Western theories and Western therapies to help Indonesian clients, which can sometimes be not so compatible. And so this is a way for me to tell them that there is a gap that I want to solve. Realistically speaking, if I have learned in this program, I can try to at least reduce the gap by, changing the language of therapy from something that's colonialized or Western mind to something that's more culturally sensitive, right? Because obviously in Australia, there's a Aboriginal therapy, and if that works in Australia, why can't that work in our context in Indonesia, right? So these are my reasoning. So, for example, decolonialized perspective on shamanic, tribal, and community-based healing, and you know, um, using a particular framework. And also, I talked about some of the analysis that I made, right? So, for example, although such approach demands substantial analytical rigor and it can be misaligned, I seek to adapt them into culturally respectful and time sensitive methodologies. This is my interest, again, this part here, and this is how I am going to answer that interest in my particular context. Now, with these inquiries, I can sort of illuminate how cultural symbolism supports healing within communal settings. So, this is the resolve again. So, as you can see with the two questions, the first and the second, there's always this gap and resolve that is pulling and pushing, right? And there's, some breadcrumbing of, your explanations, but also your own personal takes on things. So it's personal statement because it's personal. So you need to add your personal takes on it once in a while. Again, make it below 2000 characters. You'll be fit. And hopefully this second question can, help you with the progress.